with that said, Arsenal of Freedom, Scholar Beta, what's the story here?
Arsenal Freedom, taking place on Stardate 41798.2. The Enterprise explores the planet Minos, a civilization undone by its own advanced weaponry, in this case, the Echo Papa 607, which is still online and searching for a new target after all these years. Dun dun dun. So I'm saying this is a classic Trek. This is straight up space mystery. You're going along in space when all of a sudden it's a society blown away by its own weaponry. So you got this kind of Skynet situation, technology overthrew the people who created it in a very violent way, I would imagine. That's one of our main tropes. Saucer separation is a trope in this one. We finally get to see it, and it's in all of it, its excitement. And I actually have something to say about it. I kind of appreciate the way it's used. It's like, get the civilians out of here. That seems like the only real reason you'd use it.
Absolutely.
Which I think is awesome. But then there's where the phaser arrays Gene Roddenberry on the drive station. Anyways, so then there's another trope, a role reversal. Captain becomes the doctor, one of my least favorite parts of the episode. And then there's the Starfleet jerk, chief engineer who comes to the bridge to challenge Geordies. And another chief engineer.
Yep, another that they got a revolving door there. So, would you like me to go over backstory now?
Yeah. Does this one have a storied history? What'd you learn about it?
Actually, it does. Bob Lewin, one of the producers and head writers, actually wanted this episode to explore the relationship between Picard and Crusher. Roddenberry nixed it, frustrated. Went to the point where he actually left the show. One of our head writers, our producers, ends up leaving the show as a result of this.
Dang.
Also, there
what
was
that guy's name again?
Bob Lewin, Robert Lewin.
Bob Lewin, awesome.
There's a scene where Crusher reveals her true feelings for Picard. It was written. Picard in the original, one who was mortally wounded in the scenario. But that scene was cut. Also, the most important part of this backstory, this, just like Angel 1, this episode did not have a completed script. And production actually shut down several times because of that. And it kind of shows in this episode. Finally, the sand pit where Crusher and Picard are trapped it was infested with fleas.
Yeah.
They hated the pit. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's what I read too, and that sounds horrible. I'm very sorry to Gates McFadden and Patrick, especially Gates McFadden. You had to lay in that. Oh.
That way. So what works for you, Scholar Beta, in this scenario?
Okay, I'm liking the theme or the ideas that are explored around the weapons turning on their creators. It's not explored much. But it is definitely brought up. And this is a classic science fiction premise dating back, honestly, to one of the first instances of robots, a play by a playwright named Karl Čapek, and a Czech playwright. And they're not weapons per se, but they're robots, basically slaves. And they rise up against their masters and, obliterate the human population. And in this case, the people of Minos created these weapons that adapt. Doesn't that sound familiar? And become too perfect of killing machines. And this is combined with an investigation. If this were combined into an investigation via drones, because that's basically what the Echo Papa is, I think it would have been stronger because that's really terrifying to me. And I think drones are kind of a new frontier in warfare and kind of nullify infantry, basically. And that's basically what the Echo Papa was showing us it was doing, or makes it more difficult for infantry to move around the field and be useful. But anyways, I just think if we could explore that theme a little bit more, or the implications of the Echo Papa a little bit more, I think that would make it stronger, but it is brought up. It is part of the episode. And then one more thing I'll say that I appreciate about this is Geordi's decision to enter the atmosphere to negate the cloaking device on the Echo Papa model that's flying and following the Enterprise in space. To me, I like that tactic. I like that maneuver. I'm not sure from like a scientific point of view if that makes sense or not. But I don't really see anything wrong with it on the surface. And at least it's an attempt to use tactics instead of just, I think the exact polar opposite of that would be Spock punching Khan into darkness. That would be not tactics. So those are two things that I think are pretty strong and working for it. Any thoughts on either of those before I kind of get into, The
I,
not
I
so good.
like I like your commentary on drone warfare. I think it's very ahead of its time. I took a different approach with that plot device, which is based more on contemporary time. But no, I like the approach you have there in terms of drone warfare. That's very well done.
Appreciate that. And we'll talk about that in the Trek work we get to a little bit later, because we're going to ask our audience to think about that too. So criticism. What am I not digging so much about this? What revokes pips and makes me derank this episode? Well, let's talk about it. First, the Echo Papa design. You can go read about what it is. It's a pretty cheap model. I know a shampoo bottle is involved. I can't remember what else is, something else, but
Okay.
it doesn't look good. It doesn't age well, and it really doesn't make sense. Okay, so there's one, if it's presumably all of the ones that we see, the one that's following the Enterprise and the one that's on the surface, they're all the 607 or some part of the 607 system. Why would you fight the away team within phaser range? Why wouldn't you just obliterate them from the atmosphere? You know what I'm saying? That's something that's brought up in Trek later that I love. Data brings that point up later, and it's something that the Echo Papa could, for all of its intelligence, really. Also we learned that its creators just forgot to turn it off or forgot to say end demonstration. And so to me, that also it's not as cool as we're supposed to think it is. It does not pass the rule of cool. That's for sure. Okay, but the big thing about this episode that I just cannot stand, and what you brought up behind the scenes, is what it does with Picard and Beverly. To me, Picard has some of the worst bedside manner ever. And I'll grant him that, to some degree. It might be part of his character, where he's awkward with children. He's also awkward with women. I guess he's supposed to be. The sequence alternates for me between tension, Beverly's gonna die, which that speaks to me, to awkward, Picard don't fall asleep, slapping her, then just walking away from her, to revelatory, Picard, we're going to learn something big about Beverly. She's going to say these words, and then nope. And then a mysterious conclusion also is supposed to happen in this scene. Picard just ignores Beverly and then finds out about the hologram and then solves everything from there. And Beverly's basically just brushed aside.
Yeah.
Those two lines where Picard says, there must be a lot of things about you I don't know. And then Crusher says, quite a few. And then totally interrupted. And I hate that with every fiber of my being. I think it is the worst. It's horrible writing. And I like the idea that this scene mirrors the surface, that the characters are having to adapt and work with what is given to them and at hand against a superior enemy. But it doesn't really pay off. In the end, it's just the away team saves them. And we never see what happens to Crusher again. And it's just, there's so much that could have happened. More character building, more backstory revelation, more Picard and Crusher interaction. And the role reversal is interesting. Make Picard the nurse and get into that. Yeah. So for this, I'm going to give this episode the rank of Ensign. One solid pip for Starship Tactics. That's Captain Geordi. Nice job. You basically carry the entire episode for me with that.
Yep.
And I'm going to take all other points away because of the totally undeveloped themes in this episode, both what's happening with Picard and Crusher and the idea that these weapons destroy the civilization. That's super interesting and not looked at all. And then Crusher and Picard is just frustrating. So Ensign, I'm handing it over to you after I give this thing the rank of Ensign. What are you thinking, my friend?
So in my situation, I'm going to be a little bit more generous than that. I'm giving this Lieutenant JG 1.5 pips, but we're on a similar wavelength there. In terms of what works for me, this has the potential to be a brilliant commentary on late 1980s insurgent politics, because you have, and this is a common trope in 1980s science fiction, but something that could have really worked brilliantly in this episode is the concept of the arms race, and how you have things like Strategic Defense Initiative, aka Star Wars, a lot of technology that could do us in there. Iran-Contra weapons for hostages scenario. You have the Afghans versus the Soviets.
Absolutely.
Afghanistan. All these sorts of things where we're giving this technology, all these weapons, to people who are not beholden to a military, who are not beholden to a government, and now they just have these things. Could there be a problem with that? The answer to that is absolutely there could be. That could have been really interesting to explore. The technological weapon, the holographic decoy, could have been a really cool thing in theory.
Yeah.
It's a
In theory.
chance. In theory, it's a chance at characterization. If they had a chance to develop it, that might be interesting. If an evil AI made a copy of either my wife or our principal and masqueraded as our principal, that could have been an interesting story. One trope to add to your list could be, and this is a common trope in many television shows, is the will they, won't they trope.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And this sets up the will they, won't they trope. And I'm actually kind of okay with Beverly Crusher not revealing her true feelings for Picard, but teasing it. I'm okay with that because it sets up that trope. Because if you take a step back and take a look at, okay, she says she has a crush on him in the first season. Where do you go from there? They have a relationship. Either they get married, they break up, either rinse, dry, and repeat, or something else. So I'm okay with the fact that they dropped that hint, and more blatantly than places like The Naked Now, they explore that issue, and it's the will they, won't they thing. Also,
if I can just say though, for the will they part, they actually have to do something. Hold hands, sit close to each other, acknowledge the depth of the feelings, and then they can't be a will they if they don't. There is no will there if it's like a tiny little hint, but it's interrupted by the hologram. If they would have pursued it even just one or two lines more, or even had Patrick Stewart acknowledge it, but he doesn't. He's just like, oh, look what I found here. A hologram. I'm with you. I'm almost there, but it's just like, it's too reserved for that for me. I get nothing from that.
Definitely, and that's why I'd be curious to see, and I might do some digging on this because I'm getting more evidence from this time period. I'd love to see Bob Lewin's notes on this because
yes, I would love that.
Had to do with characterization.
Yes.
Also, the role reversal, love that. Picard being in a position where he has to take orders instead of give them, love that. Other good character moments, Geordi in command and consulting Troy.
Yes.
I do like that. What I really don't like about this, real quick, there are too many what, exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, question mark, the what moments. There are too many conveniences. The Enterprise tells Rusher that Drake isn't real, and instead he's a holographic trick, and the holographic Drake is right there. It doesn't do anything. I get it. He's a computer program, but still doesn't work. The drone, the design looks unfortunate. You said it might have something to do with a shampoo bottle. For me, it looks like something that you could get from an adult bookstore.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
maybe that's what it is.
It may be. I don't know. It might be something worth something to somebody. So, with that said, the biggest unforgivable scene here, the biggest flaw, Picard has no business going down there. Absolutely not. Zero. And that's completely unforgivable. You just spent 2 episodes earlier talking about how Starfleet is a military organization. Respect the chain of command. You wouldn't send your number 1 down there, but I'll give that a pass. If your number 1 has been captured, you don't send the next
go down there.
You don't send the next higher ranking officer down there. This could have been fixed with one scene or one line of dialogue, and here it is. Terrorists have captured the away team, requiring Picard to go down there to mediate. Picard takes Worf. Worf has some times to shine. That's how you fix that. That's how you can organically fix that. And then you find out that there are no terrorists at all. Going back to the technology part, it's all AI.
Yep.
And that gives the big reveal at the end. But I get it. They had problems there with the script. A few lines of dialogue, a few shots could have fixed this and polished this into something brilliant. But this episode fell victim to its own production. So with that said, Scholar Beta, give us TrekWork. What do you got?
Okay, here's what I'm thinking. I want you all out there to redesign the Echo Papa 607 to further explore the intersection of the adaptable killing machine and drone technology, drone warfare. All those historical examples, that we talked about with the arms race, the whole point is at some point someone develops a superior technology. So let's see how much more superior this is. Let's see this technology really give, what they have in TNG Arrival. Then here's the last thing. At the end of the episode, Picard agrees to buy the system, and that's how he's able to shut it off. So I want you to explore how Picard, the new owner of the Papa, might add it to the Enterprise's arsenal. So that's my TrekWork for you. And then let me hit you up with my Enterprise interior really quickly. Won't take but a moment. And it is the Ready Room, featuring acting Captain Geordi. Of course, it was only a matter of time before we talked about the Ready Room. It's an amazing set. I love it. Patrick Stewart talks fondly about it in interviews. Evidently, there were scenes that were shot late into the production cycle of the work week, and these were like Friday night scenes, and he talks fondly about having them in there with Jonathan Frakes and Brett Spiner. So I love that. I love that there's some Shakespeare in there. I love that there's his fish tank in there, his desk, his little chaise lounge. It's an awesome place to get some work done, So that's the that's the Enterprise interior for this episode. The Ready Room, it's missing Picard, but it's got his chair, and it's got Geordi, and it's got Troy, and that's pretty amazing too.
That is. So with that said, folks, hope you're enjoying the new format. I definitely enjoyed the Pips thing personally, and I really like your TrekWork Sculler Beta on Arsenal of Freedom, because I beat my head against the wall for a long time trying to figure out how I would do that. So brilliant there. Stay tuned, folks. Thanks, for next week. You're welcome. Next week, we got Symbiosis. Got a lot of words on that. Skin of Evil, even more words. Yeah. And we'll always have Paris to finish it out. We're getting close to the end of season 1. I'm looking forward to seeing what we all think about that. With that said, thank yous are in order, I think. So Sculler Beta, take it away.
Yeah, Memory Alpha, as always, you're an amazing source. All the fans who keep you up, really appreciated reading some behind the scenes. And TrekCore for the scripts, me being able to go back and look up Krios's words, that's super invaluable. Love those caps, especially those Blu-rays, as always. I don't have that yet, someday, but love comparing and seeing that beautiful quality up. And of course, all listeners, anyone who's out there working, remember, you participate, we'll give you the special commendations. It'd be an honor to read your work, to further this podcast. So, anything else you want to mention, my friend?
I'm all good. I'm looking forward to that. Please follow us on Twitter at Trek Teachers. We send our TrekWork up there. We get some materials there. Also, there seems to be interest for the Lost Trek project we keep publishing. We got some feedback on that, so please keep that coming. Cool. I tentatively have some ideas for a spinoff going there that's more historical based, so I can show students how to do public history in as professional a setting as possible. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to either co-hosting or guests, having you come on as a guest Sculler Beta for that. I got some ideas in mind for that. I won't say anything on air, but I got some ideas.
So, for that the Lost Trek, I'd love to see one of those old Bob Lewin scripts, if there is one for this episode. That'd be awesome.
Definitely. So with that said, folks, Emalama Pono, especially now, please be safe, be healthy, and live long and prosper.
Peace and long life, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Captain Kanaka here. On behalf of all the educators at Teachers Talking Trek, I hope you enjoyed our little video here. As always, please let us know what you think in the comments. So with that said, live long and prosper, Emalama Pono, and see you next time.